Hey, welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be moving into economic methodology. So we want to look at the methodology of economics. So our learning intention is that we'll focus on exploring economics as a social science. Why do we say that economics is a social science? Why do we even relate economy to science? We also look at positive and normative statements. We'll look at the distinction between fact and value judgments. We'll also look at the meaning of the term ceteris paribus. What does it mean, ceteris paribus? Then we'll look at the time period we have in economics, which are short run, long run, and very long run. So that is that. So what is economics? What is economy? We have different scholar definition of economics. We have definitions by Adam Smith, who referred to as the father of economics. It defines economy as an inquiry into the nature and cause of wealth of nations. That's what he defines economies as. We have Alfred Marshall, who defined economies as the study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. So we have Alfred Marshall definition. We also have definition by John Stuart Mill, who said economics is the practical science of production and distribution of wealth. And we have the generally accepted definition, which is by Lionel C. Robinson, who actually captured the concept of scarcity, concept of wants, and also concept of opportunity cost. He said it's a social science which studies human behavior as a relationship between heirs and scarce means, which has alternative. You see that it captures the three important concepts or the three important links in economics, which is ends and scarce means. The ends are the ones that are unlimited. The scarce means is the resources, and alternative use means that there's always an opportunity cost when we actually have any choice we are making always have an alternative. It always have an opportunity cost, that is, there's always a next best alternative. So these are all different definitions of economics, but we'll see that what it's all about. The What everyone will conclude is that economics is trying to look for solution to scarce means, and what using scarce means to actually meet needs. Yeah, because resources are scarce, so we need to efficiently use those scarce resources. Now, then when we talk about the study of economics, is divided into two parts, which is what we call the microeconomics and the macro. Now, what micro is saying is just you're looking at a part, a fraction of the economy at a point in time. You're studying a part of the economy at a point in time. But when we say macro, macro is more of the whole economy. So we have micro and macro. That is the two distinction in economics. We have the micro and macro. Now let's now look at economics as a social science. Why is it that we said economy is a social science? Why do we have to relate it to a science field? What is the science about economics? So economics is actually a science because of the way economy puts forward and investigates theories, because they actually do that the same way scientists actually do. That's why you see that scientists, they just don't believe in hearsay, or they just don't believe in oh, I heard this from somewhere, gossips, or just what anybody says. It has to be tested. You get the point. So when we say it's a social science, it means that it looks at human behavior, particularly in relation to satisfy human wants and human needs and wants. Now, so you see that for every theory, economic theory, it actually needs to go through some stages. We look at it, okay, we have to define problem to be investigated. Now, what is the problem? It might be that we discover a problem that, I'm just giving an example, where some of this theory, where how it emanates, we discover, let's say in a market, it was actually discovered that when price of goods actually increase, people are demanding less of that product. Or when the price is low, people are demanding more of that product. That is something we need to investigate. Why is it that when price is going up, coin demand is decreasing? So you now forward a theory. Now this theory still need to be investigated. Let's now say the theory you are putting forward is the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, or the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded, Now, what you now need to do is to investigate this theory. How do you investigate? You need to look at different scenarios. You need to look at different conditions. Is this thing applicable? Is it just that maybe it's just this particular market, this theory we are putting forward is applicable to? So because in science it needs to be generally it needs to be tested, not just a fraction of, just not just a fraction, but we need to test it all round to see how applicable this concept is. So we have to investigate. So when we now investigate, let's say, okay, we check market A in this country, we check market B, we check market C, we look at different market, and we see that consumers are actually acting the same way. When price is up, coin demanded is low. When price is down, coin demanded is high. So after we have now investigated this theory from different scenarios, in different areas, we can now accept or reject this theory. So that is how it comes. So you see that economists are not just, they don't base their theory on assumption or yes say no. Those assumptions need to be put forward as a theory, and it needs to be investigated. So you see that is also the same way scientists, any solution scientists are putting forward is not just, because we just test this, we think it will work, we think it's going to cure this disease. No, they have to look at it. That's why you see their experiment, they will first of all, there are stages, they will test it in animals, see the reactions before they now start testing in humans. Even though they won't just test in any other humans, they will actually need to check reactions. This let's assume drugs. How is it actually working? You understand? What is the response? They will test people, and see how this drug is actually responding before they now say, this drug can actually solve this particular problem. So that is the same way economy. So that's why it is a social science. So when anyone asks you why is economy a social science, because we do not just assume things. We have to test. Theories are tested, they are investigated before we accept or reject those theories. So now we have, let's say, law of demand, which says the higher the price, the lower the current demand. Why are we saying that is a law? Because it has been tested. You understand? Good. So let's move on to what a model is. Now, this theory we now put forward by economists are often referred to as models. So they become models. So these theories we have put forward has been accepted, has been tested. So they are simplified representation of what has actually taken place and are usually explained mathematically. So this model now comes in a mathematical equation. For example, what I just said, there's a way you can always write it mathematically in economics. So the value of models is that they can be used over and over again to test a theory in many different contexts. So we'll now write it in a model form. That is, you can now use it to test. You can now use it to test different, you can use it to test in different situations when it now becomes a model. For example, there's a demand function. You understand? There's a model for it in which we can use to test any. We can always use it to test any theory. You understand? In different contexts, we can use this model to actually test in different contexts. You understand? And it will be right. So it means that theory that has been put forward becomes a model which you can use it. So it's always in mathematical form. Though the essence of this guy is not really the mathematical aspect of economics, but when you see those mathematics, like there's always a function, there is demand function. So those are models, in which we can use. So we also have statements made. In economics, we categorize statements into positive and normative statements. So we have positive statements and we have normative statements. What are positive statements? Now, positive statements are statements that is based on facts or actual evidence. It means that there are evidence to the statement to back that statement. It is fact-based evidence. There is statistics we can use to back. It's not just assumption. It is fact-based. So it does not give room for personal opinion. No, it's not your opinion. It is fact-based. If there is an evidence to it, so it does not give room for personal opinion or making value judgments. For example, a fall in supply of petrol leads to an increase in price. So that is a fact. When there is a fall in supply of petrol, there will be an increase in its price. Why? A fall in supply means that there isn't a lot to go around. The petrol won't be it's not in large quantity. Therefore means that there will be a lot of demand, there will be increase in demand. So if there's increase in demand, what will happen? The prices, supplier would have to increase the prices of that goods. You get the point. So that's what that means. Now we also now have normative statements. So this is a statement that is based on economist opinion or value judgment and which cannot be proven. So it's economist opinion, because as economists also we can also have opinion, but some of our opinions are not fact based, it's just our opinion. So we call that normative statement. For example, when I say a fall in the supply of petrol should lead to an increase in its price, should, that is my own opinion. It might be maybe because I was in a scenario, I saw evidence that if supply of petrol should actually fall, it should. You understand? That is a personal opinion. It is not fact based. You understand? You see that should means that there is an assumption. It might lead to an increase in its price if the supply of petrol should fall. It should. That is, it means that it is likely. That is what it means. So that is normative statement. That is normative statement. Now we also want to look at some concepts here also, which is called ceteris paribus. I know something that we use this word ceteris paribus, ceteris paribus, ceteris paribus. What does it mean? It's a Latin term which is used by economists. It is referred to a scenario where other things remain equal or all other factors are held constant. Do you understand? That is, they are unchanged. Because whenever we look at economic theories, let me give you an example. Like I said, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. You say ceteris paribus. What it means is that it is not only price that actually affects quantity demanded, that affect changes in quantity demanded. There are other factors, but other factors in that assumption, we are saying they are held constant. So we are holding them constant. That is, we are assuming that those other factors are not influencing quantity demanded. What is influencing quantity demand at that time is only price. So that's what ceteris paribus, because there are always other factors that influence a situation. There are hundreds of other factors. But in order for us to understand, to be able to analyze the situation at hand, we are most likely going to hold those factors constant. And sometimes the reason why it might be held constant, it might be the time period which we are going to look at now. It might be the time period. There are sometimes whereby those factors will not actually influence the change. For example, it might just be in the short run, it's only price that is influencing quantity demanded. But as time goes by, we see that not just price, there will now be non-price factors that can influence quantity demand. So because of the time period also, we can also hold those factors constant in order for us to be able to analyze the situations that are. Just imagine if there was if other things are just varying every time, we won't have the demand curve, because what the demand curve assumes is that there is price and there is quantity demanded. There is only price that is influencing quantity demanded. It's only price. So our normal demand curve we have, that's what it shows, that is only price. You understand? Though we now assume that there are now non-price factors that could also influence quantity. But what I'm just saying in a nutshell is that it helps us to analyze, to analyze situations when we use this concept of holding the factors, other factors, when we hold them constant, in order to be able to analyze the concept you're analyzing at that particular point in time. So it is used to model the effect of one change at a time, like I said, of a change time. So it's important also in understanding. So when I say ceteris paribus, or anyone says ceteris paribus, what you should think about is that factors are what held constant, they remain unchanged, other things remain equal. That is, other things are not changing, they are held constant. That's what it means. So lastly, I want to quickly talk about time period, which is very, very important. Like I said, our analysis, we always look at it most of the time, it will be short run, long run, but there's also very long run. So we look at it in the short run and in the long run. Now, what is short run? Short run is different from short term, long term. No. What is short run? Short run. Now, short run is the time period when a firm can change at least one but not all factor inputs. Now, when we say factor input here, we are talking about the factors of production. That is, you can change at least one but not all factor inputs. Do you understand? That is, not all factor inputs are changing. You understand? Not all factor inputs are changing. It was when a firm can change at least one but not all factors. So it's only one factor input that can change. The rest are what won't change in the short run. Only one will change. The rest are still held constant. Do you understand? That is, the rest are not changing. When we say factor input, we are talking about factors of production. So at least one, you understand, is only one is changing. There is still those who are what held constant. Now, but when we now talk about long run, long run is that time period when all factors of production are varying. They have changed, they have adjusted. You understand? To the effect happening per time, they've adjusted. You understand? They've adjusted. But the only thing that is else constant is state of technology. You understand? That is technology, which is not part of the most called factors of production, like we have said. So technology in the long run is held constant, but other factors of production, they are varying. All the four factors of production they are varying in the long run. Now, what about the very long run? Now, the very long run is now when the time period when all key inputs into production are variable. What it means, the key inputs here is talking about both the factors of production, state of technology. Anything we're actually using is actually what it is varying. All both factor inputs and state of technology, everything is varying. Do you understand? So that is the very long run. So these three time periods in our analysis is very, very important when you're actually analyzing whether the short run, the long run, very long. But most importantly, for those, if you are doing IGCSE or A-levels, short run and long run is very, very important, in you answering questions. So it's very, very important. So that is that about economics methodology. We've looked at different concepts in this class. We've looked at what is economics from different school of thought. Look at the fact that we have micro, macro. We've explained what economics as a social science. What does it mean? We look at what a model is. We've also looked at statement, positive and normative statements. We look at concept of ceteris paribus, which we use in explaining the fact that factors are held constant. Other factors that could influence, the concept or the effect or change are held constant. And we also look at time period, which are short run, long run, very long run. So thank you so much for staying true to this class. Please kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. I wish to do more, to share more concepts with you, to share more topics in economics with you. And your subscribing to this channel would help you to get my update as soon as I drop the videos. So I'll see you in the next class. Thank you for joining this class. Thank you so much.